Welcome back to SwitchedtoLinux. It is Monday and it is time for another top 5. And today we are actually going to go into the WordPress world to talk about some changes that are coming down the pipeline in WordPress. It's important to talk about because this community is probably more of a web and tech savvy community, and so it's worth also pointing out that since over 70% of the internet is running WordPress websites, it is worth bringing up what they are about to do and to tell you if you have a WordPress website, do not just casually go on into the next couple of weeks. Take a little bit of time and prepare your site because of some changes that are coming down the pipeline. Now, I did some other videos about this, but to bring it to just a brief summary, WordPress core is about to integrate the Gutenberg editor into the block. And nearly every developer is looking at this and saying, stop. Okay. Every single philosophy of WordPress is violated by Gutenberg. It's not even a good product. They're rushing the code even to this day. Having just released another update 4 days ago, it is still breaking tons of websites, and they're about to jam this into the core, which is going to be released next week. Unless something else changes, I just checked the maps, nothing has changed as of yet. Now, of course, part of the WordPress philosophy has always been if we include something that more than 80% of our users want to disable, we have messed up. Well, if you haven't followed the videos that I've done on Gutenberg so far, this is a plugin with a 2.5 star, in fact, it's 2.3 star rating with over 1,000 reviews all saying, don't, it's bad. And if you actually read through several of these, a lot of these 5-star reviews, I would easily say 25% of these 5-star reviews are supposed to be 1-star reviews. But when you review a plugin on WordPress, it automatically fills out 5-star. You have to manually go in and change it, and you don't have a lot of notification to do that, because they literally want to assume everything's going great and you want to leave 5-star comments. And so a lot of these comments, and I have read the vast majority of this over 1,000 comments, and it's not like a lot of them were before. Even to this day, today, bad, breaks every site. These are reviews from developers like myself. This guy maintains 70 WordPress websites. Every one of them they're installing this on is breaking their site. This guy's like a really good road. Oh, not good. That's enough. I can't pronounce this language. Not impressed. Unnecessary upgrade threatening to ruin a great CMS. And then this guy's, why are reviews so bad? Gutenberg is so good. You see, there's a few people who like this plugin. It is for a very, very, very small amount of people who are more than likely end users and not people who understand the core of websites. The thing is that Gutenberg wants to compete with Medium, they want to compete with Wix, all these other sites, and it will produce generic, crappy content and generic, crappy websites. Now, there are places for this, and I'm saying, hey, maybe you want to keep it, but make sure you know, because if you allow this thing to hit the system before you're prepped for it, there is no going back. So get prepared for it. So I've prepared 5 steps to talk about what you want to do to prepare for this colossal mess of Gutenberg. Number 1, make sure you have a full system backup. Okay, I have 10 years experience in WordPress use and development. Okay, so I will tell you this first and foremost. Do not ever use any of those stupid WordPress plugins. There's one site we're developing right now for somebody. We're redeveloping the site. And guess what? We can't access their current site. Like, we have the WordPress login, the administrator login, but they have, I think, 2 different backup plugins in there. Their backups every single week are failing. They don't know it. I know it. I've told them about it. There's nothing they can do about it. Their backups are failing every single week. The reason is because they don't know how to upload files. They don't know how to use WordPress with best practices. They're just treating it like a kid treats a computer, which isn't always good. And by the way, I realize some of you guys watch these videos do treat your computers well. We're talking about a callous, careless kid who just, doesn't treat it with respect. That's what we're talking about. When people don't know how to use their WordPress website, it produces a lot of stuff in the background. And if you have huge files, if you're uploading pictures directly from your camera and they're 8 and 9 and 10 megabyte pictures, you got file names that make no sense. They totally mess up how servers treat file names. They cause errors and they cause these backup plugins to break. So this site we're working on has 3 gigabytes of backup files and not a single one of them is actually usable in any way, shape, or form. Do not ever rely on a WordPress backup plugin. You need to make sure that you have access to your control panel. Now, the majority of people watching this or running a WordPress site are probably going to be using cPanel or something similar to cPanel. So to make a proper backup, what you want to do is you want to access your file manager. Now, you don't generally want to do it through the web interface. You want to do this through FTP. I don't have an FTP server or an FTP client, on this computer, so we're not going to take that step. But you want to go into your file manager on your FTP client, find your WordPress folder. In this case, we're grabbing my WordPress test site, and you simply want to copy the entire contents of this folder onto your backup medium. Now, you might be putting that into some cloud instance. You might be putting onto an external drive, maybe a flash drive of some form. That's all okay. But using an FTP protocol, you transfer all of these files onto your device. That's step 1. Step 2 is you need to access phpMyAdmin. You need to find your database for your instance. And then once you are in this database, you hit this export. Don't narrow in first. Don't click here and then export. That's not going to take a full database backup. You need to be on the root of the database. Hit the export button. Just do the quick export SQL format. This is going to download a text file of your entire database. These are the 2 things that you need to restore your WordPress database. Do this first before anything. And by the way, you should be doing updates on a regular basis, pulling this exact backup before you run any updates whatsoever. Otherwise, you could get yourself into a situation where things are not doing well. So that's number 1. Make a full backup of everything. Number 2, test your site with Gutenberg. Now, before you upgrade to WordPress 5, you can install the Gutenberg plugin. It is going to annoy the bejeepers out of you on the dashboard. If you have canceled all of that and you don't want to you can go ahead and install it here. By the way, I'm going to show you this page here. Hit your plugins here, and this is your plugins page. Hit your add new. By the way, this is hilarious. This is the Gutenberg plugin that they are going to force down everybody's throat. Notice it has 600 plus active installs with a 1,500 reviews and it's 2.3 stars. This looks like 2.5. The classic editor, which is what you use to mitigate this baloney, it only has 77 reviews, 5-star, I think it's 4.9, and it has just as many active installs. Does that tell you something, WordPress people? Okay. And by the way, of course, more people will review something negatively than positively. But what you need to do is here you want to install and activate the Gutenberg plugin so that you can test your website with it. You're going to want to test a couple of different things. Now, the one thing you are going to want to test is if you have any plugins or any other odd little functionalities. If you've built your site custom or you've had your built site custom, then you want to make sure that every functionality that you would need to do is going to be compatible when Gutenberg is activated. And then you need to come over here and start working with a post. So we'll go ahead and hit our add new over here. And we get this. Oh, welcome to the wonderful world of blocks. We get a little pop-up notification about how to use this stupid thing. Guys, you don't need this crap on the other editor. Okay, add your title here. New title. And then here you can start writing or type / choose a block. So I guess I can add a gallery. I can add a heading. I can add an image. I gotta click on this block here. So see, look at that. This is a new block of text. So if I hit enter, okay, this is good. It did not create a new block, I don't think. All right. And so it's, you can kind of see it's actually adding a new block for every paragraph we do. That's actually a little on the annoying side. Now I want to add an image. See, I used to just have a thing up here to add media, which was very easy. This is, I guess, what do I have to do here? Oh, okay. I have to hover over here until the plus sign shows up. Grab the image. Okay, I can upload. I can choose from a media gallery. I can insert from a URL. All right, here's something in my media gallery. Go ahead and do that. Let's do... What I need to do is have the functionality to adjust. Okay, like I want to adjust the image size. I can drag and drop it, but I can't pull up the image and just tell it what I want to do like I used to be able to, which is actually a better functionality. In other words, I can't pull and, or, oh, I guess I can do it over here. Okay. So this is, I guess, where I can manually adjust it. I can do a reset, 25, 50, 100%. So now, though, of course, I want to put it maybe in line with something. I got to figure out that again. I don't remember exactly how to get this image in line with everything else. I don't even know where the hell it went. I don't know what the... Like I said, test your site with Gutenberg. Gutenberg is the biggest pile of horse manure I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I don't even know how to get that image back. I'm not completely sure. Let's publish it. Oh, I have to hit publish twice, apparently. Let's see. It says it's live. So the picture's still there. I just can't seem to get to it. Okay. What the? Test your site with Gutenberg. When it doesn't work, think about moving to something else. I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is what I'm talking about. This is the latest version and it sucks. It is so horrible. It's not even like... All right. So test your site with Gutenberg. You want to test not only adding posts, you want to also add pages. You want to test your plugins, any custom functionality, anything in your site. You want to test it all. Make sure everything is working. Number 3, if your computer still works because you have not put your fist through your screen, then you need to mitigate this crap by installing the classic plugin editor. So let's go ahead and head on back to our plugin page. So click on your plugins on the sidebar, hit add new, and find your classic editor and go ahead and install this guy and activate it. All right. Now, of course, Gutenberg is a plugin at this point in time. In WordPress 5, it's going to cease to be a plugin and it's going to be forced upon you. You're going to have to enable your classic editor, go into settings, and make sure that replace block editor with the classic editor is enabled. There's also the use the block editor by default and include optional links back to the classic editor. This is going to allow you to put something more like the classic editor back into this block nonsense. I would just replace it entirely with that. That appears, of course, appears in your settings and writing. Make sure that is enabled. And when you do that and you go back into your post, now, holy crap, I can come over here and I can actually set my custom size, whatever I need to do, or I can go down to custom. I can do this. I can move the image around where I need to, you know, like this. Just drag it kind of where I want it to. It's going to have the same functionality as it should have. Of course, that's a little bit too big. Let me go with medium. There we are. So now, of course, you see how much easier it is to actually do something with this editor. And it's like, ooh, it's kind of in your way. We have distraction-free writing, guys. I mean, it's not like we needed to get rid of all the stuff on the side of the page. So install your classic editor and set it to always replace the block editor. And this way your WordPress instance is not going to change through WordPress 5. Just make sure that you are doing that so that you are not going to be hit with the unnecessary mess of the crap that is called Gutenberg. So that is going to be our number 3. Number 4, we want to start thinking about our writing strategy as you are writing blog posts, you're writing pages, whatever else. There is some instance where you might, and some people still do this, it's probably, they realize, probably not the best thing to do. But what you want to do is make sure that you are not writing your post out entirely on WordPress any longer, okay? And the reason for this is the way that Gutenberg is going to work. Now, this is, by the way, if you're choosing to use Gutenberg. I should specify that. If you are choosing to use Gutenberg and you are creating a new post, right? Okay, we'll do a new test post. Now, some people got into this habit of writing on WordPress because it was fairly easy. So if you go in here and start doing your new writing, this is my new blog post. I am writing here, blah. And then what people are getting into the instance of doing is writing on this, and then if you need to make a backup, you have a major problem if you need to go ahead and make any real edits to this or save it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is a new paragraph, so I now have 2 paragraphs in here. Okay, so now if I want to come over here, I cannot, okay, I can Control A and select all of that. I guess I can do this. Let's copy this, and then let's go ahead and have a look at what our what is being copied here. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Let's do a new document, and let's see how it's pasting. See how it's pasting this? It's pasting it with a lot of excess crap. This is because what Gutenberg actually does is it produces a ton of excess markup. And if we come over here, where's it at? Okay, so if you come over here, what you'll see is it adds all of this excess markup into it. This excess markup is showing up actually on your page here, so we end up with it in all of these comment things inside the paragraphs, and it makes it a total nightmare. Okay, so you always want to be writing your things on documents externally. So here's a section from the book Testing and Temptations here. So I'm going to copy this, and let's, okay, I don't really need any of this. What happens if I paste this in like this? Well, it pastes in without any formatting, which is exactly what I would expect it to do. But let's say, I don't want it to do that. Let's go back, exit our code editor, and start typing like this. Now it puts every single thing in its own blocks. In fact, it even did something goofy. Look at this. It even ignored many of my spaces when I pasted it in. So it ignored a space here, 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 it ignored, I mean, look at this. You can't even write your posts on a separate document and then import it anymore because it's ignoring all of these spaces. So now we're gonna go back in here and figure out how to do this. Of course, if you write everything on here, you can't copy and paste it out because it's gonna bring all this excessive crappy markup. And then if you write it outside the document and import it, it's going to ignore all these spaces and give you all sorts of issues like this. So this is why Gutenberg is horrible. This is the state it is in, and they're going to cram this into the #1 CMS used on the internet on Tuesday. Next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday. This is an absolute nightmare. And then of course you can see what it did is it broke everything up into blocks. Now this, I don't really want it to be a bolded block. I would actually kind of prefer this to be a heading. And it's not even giving me the option of a heading 1 if I wanted it to be a heading 1 for some reason. Oh Lord, I can do 2, 3, and 4. I can't pick heading 1 apparently. No, I clicked here to push my enter. Okay. So you can see these guys here. This one, let's see, transform to, that one would be a heading 3. So there's, of course, doing the block stuff isn't all that, you can see it's not super hard as far as once you have that figured out. But if I wanted to make some edits and copy things around, move things around, now we have to move within all of these crazy blocks, and that kind of becomes some issues. So how does this work without any of this stuff? Well, let's go ahead and delete the whole I'll copy everything. We're just going to delete everything. We're going to go back into, we're going to leave the page. We are going to reactivate the classic editor, go back up into our posts, go into our draft, all, delete, paste, and look at that. It did everything perfectly the first time. Maybe, this is supposed to be the block text. Guys, is this too hard to work with? That's a paragraph. Okay, and look, I can even select it as heading 1. Should I want it to be heading 1? Is this so hard? I mean, this is what people, it's too hard to use. No, it's not. This is so stinking easy to use, it's not even funny. This is what they are removing from the core of WordPress, cramming this other crap down our throats. But now we have extra issues. But make certain you are not doing any of your initial drafting on Gutenberg, because when you go and try and save it out of there, you have a difficult time getting it out. So what happens if I copy this and paste this into my new document? Well, let's go ahead and transition this so you guys can see. Let's delete everything, paste that in. Look at that. It just copied everything. Here's our block quote. Here's everything without extra markup. This is actually set as a heading. It's even formatting correctly. Heading 1, heading 2. Everything works perfectly fine with the classic block editor. This is the thing they're trying to remove. Prepare for this by making sure that your site is mitigated by installing that classic plugin editor and using with that. Okay, this leads us to number 5. It's sad to say it, people, but some of us may have to consider some alternatives. I have loved WordPress over the years, but when they're going to do this, of course, when in the initial stuff they're saying, oh, this classic plugin is going to be installed for a long time. You know the classic plugin editor now that we are talking about using to mitigate this nonsense? This is actually going to be only officially supported until 2021. Okay, so it was until further notice. Well, that further notice came down this last couple weeks, and that's 2021, which only gives us, guys, it's almost 2019. That gives us only 2 years to get off of this stuff and migrate to this crap they're trying to force on us as developers. It's not good. And so some of us are going to have to jump ship. So where might you jump to? Well, there's a few options that might be out there. Classic Press is a fork of WordPress where they are forking it out from 4.9 without the Gutenberg and then migrating entirely to this, maintaining the original Tiny Core Classic plugin or the Classic editor without needing a plugin. So Classic Press might be one that some of you guys look towards. All these are brand new projects, by the way. So you can do that. There is also another one called Compress. Now, Compress actually, they originally in their plan, they're like, well, maybe there's some uses for Gutenberg. But then they looked at this and said, right now we don't. Now, Classic Press is absolutely dedicated to WordPress without Gutenberg. Compress is saying, we're going to wait and see if this thing turns into something. And that's kind of a split and division why these are options. But these are 2 options. Suppose you want to jump ship entirely from the WordPress community altogether. You can consider Drupal, which is one of the sites that is used by, a lot of big companies use this. It's a little bit harder from a development end, but it actually is not too bad of a system. It can be a pain to learn. It can be a pain to use. And one of the downsides is they always are changing things under the hood, which is a little problematic because you get everything working and then gotta do it again. Joomla is another one that I will probably be looking more closely at Joomla again. There were some things, some reasons I went into the WordPress more intensively than into Joomla. But Joomla has some good good points on it as well. So these are some options. Of course, if all you're doing is blogging, Ghost might be an option for you, although their blogging platform is not too much different from Gutenberg, although I'm sure it works better. There is actually this this blog post here. This is from Gutenberg Times, which is really a website, an entire blog dedicated to talking about Gutenberg news. They had this article here, 19 methods to avoid Gutenberg on your WordPress website. And this is a fascinating read. They're, of course, updating it regularly. And so, of course, this is where they talked about disabling Gutenberg in Compress, selective de-Googleberging, how to selectively choose or not choose it. There's what the fork reading list. And then this, though, has a lot of things. Of course, one way to mitigate it is by utilizing currently the plastic add-in. Some people will talk about adding some filters into it, may adjust this. There are some other ways that you can, just a lot of different options that if you're not a WordPress developer may or may not make much sense to you. Disabling the notices. And then, of course, this looks at the forks, Classic Press and Compress, or leaving the WordPress ecosystem entirely. There's Ghost, Drupal. Craft is another one. Craft is an exclusively paid one unless you're doing it just as a hobbyist. So I didn't talk about it much before. But so there are some other options. Of course, they didn't include Joomla on here. Joomla is the other one that is a completely freely open source and will work easily on pretty much any platform. If you're working with a cPanel type system and you need an alternative to WordPress, you're either looking at Drupal or Joomla. Those are your options. And so that's your last point, is consider some alternatives. It's possible we need to jump ship. I know I'm just getting ready to launch another sub business, and I started the theme development in WordPress, and I'm looking at all this going, I think I might be doing it in Joomla or Drupal instead. I'm not completely sure which direction I'm going to go yet. So, or who knows, maybe I'm just going to do the whole thing in raw HTML. I mean, would probably suit my cause as well. So this is a very sad thing. It's a sad day for WordPress. Like I said, I'm a developer. I've developed over 100 sites in WordPress, and I know it in and out. I'm a developer. I'm a user. I'm an end user. I have WooCommerce stores that are my own personal ones. I have customized ones I've done for clients. I have just tons and tons of sites, tons of hours under my belt in WordPress. And what they're trying to force on us in Gutenberg it's a very sad thing, and it's probably worth some of us jumping ship. And it's probably going to take something like that. It's going to take Automattic losing a ton of people to finally look back and go, oh, duh, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And so here's to you, Matt Mullenberg. Screw off. I hope you're fired soon. And that's kind of me being about as nice as I can be about it. I don't really want to say anything else more harsh than that right here. But I hope that your business collapses under your feet, under your own stupidity, because you have completely failed to listen to your developers who built WordPress to be so successful. Maybe you need to stop, take a backseat, and say, oh, let's put in Gutenberg only as a plugin for a while and see if that works. That's probably not going to happen. If you're in the WordPress community and you found this video, thanks for coming along to the channel. Usually we do Linux, technology, privacy, things like that here. Certainly spread this video around, and if you know anybody that runs a WordPress blog or a WordPress website in any way, shape, or form, make sure they see this video so they are prepared for this. I know with my clients, I'm losing some man hours to make sure that their sites are mitigated, just to make sure it's set to go, and we're not going to have any surprises on Cyber Tuesday. Woo! At least they didn't kill everybody's website right before Black Friday, but that's that. That's what I wanted to say. So thanks for watching this video. You can check me out, patreon.com/TomM. That is TOMM. Of course, I have some of my other sites are linked down below. ThinkLifeMedia.com is my support site, which is WordPress for now. How exciting. And you can also check me out. I have some other sites as well you can find on the Patreon site. If you are interested in getting some Switch to Linux merch, coffee cups, mouse pads, t-shirts, things like that, check out shop.switchetolinux.com, and there are some other means to support the channel at switchetolinux.com/support. So thanks for coming along, and I hope that you enjoy switching to something other than WordPress.